Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So a guy asked me a really tough question the other day, and I just figured I'd put it to everybody and see what the response is. What he asked me was, how do I know when to back off or when to push harder? And he was talking about a business that he had started a few years ago, and he's an entrepreneur, and he was just wondering what my opinion is, because I've had many, many years, many decades experience with running businesses. So he was just wondering, because he's had such a roller coaster ride economically and just trying to rebuild this company. Every time it seems to see the light at the end of the tunnel, something happens and then he has to rebuild, and this has been a few years in a row, and he just doesn't know, should he press forward with all of his strength and his energy and his might? Even though this is really hard, should he press forward, stay disciplined, have this relentless drive? Or should he back off? Should he just recognize the defeat? It's kind of like that Kenny Rogers song, that country singer, and he had that song, The Gambler. You got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, know when to run. It's such an important life lesson. I mean, The Clash sung about it. Should I stay or should I go? This is a question and dilemma that we may ask ourselves during a few different kinds of experiences throughout our lives. Maybe in a relationship, maybe in business, like my buddy. But nonetheless, we come up to this point where we wake up one day and we wonder, what's it all for? Should I keep going? Or should I just end it all? Should I just say, fuck it? Now, I'm a big picture kind of guy. When we're talking about business, and this is what I talk to my friend about, in the context of business, having your own company, being an entrepreneur, having a dream, I always am on the side of longevity, of pushing through the hard times. You give up too soon. This is one of the problems a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of new business owners have, is they give up too soon. They had a misconception, a fantasy about what it was going to be like as an entrepreneur. A lot of people think that it's going to be a lot of time off, a lot of time on the golf course, company cars and private jets and hotel rooms that are nice and travel expenses, and they have these fantasies of what it's going to be like to be in charge of their own business. And they didn't realize that you're going to be doing multiple positions. You may have one job at your job now. When you run a business, you're doing all the jobs all of a sudden. You have the ultimate floater position where you can be picking up trash one minute and making $1 million deals the next. Cleaning a fucking bathroom in the morning and looking at property to buy in the afternoon. I mean, you're doing everything. And a lot of people don't realize that, and they get discouraged. It's hard. A lot of people don't realize how long it takes to start a business. They think they're going to be successful within the first year. I didn't make money right away, I guess I'll just give up. We've all seen kids like that on team sports when we were, maybe in school. They weren't good at the game right away, so they just walked away in a huff. Fuck this shit. It's not worth doing. Business takes practice. Some people will, run a business out of their house for a few years, survive off of very little money, reduce all their expenses, live like poor people just to make sure that all their funds can go towards their dream. This may take 6 years. They may have to work 2 jobs in order to fund their dream. And that may go for 5 or 10 years. I mean, there's a certain amount of endurance with success. You have to pay your dues. You look at somebody who you think is successful overnight, and there's a good chance that motherfucker's been paying his dues for years. I used to see this with rock bands. I used to do a lot of promotion of rock and roll bands in Central Florida. This was 15 years ago or so. Some bands just couldn't hack it. They couldn't get along with each other, and they couldn't figure out how to have the right equipment, and they couldn't figure out how to get to the shows, and there was a lot of obstacles that they just couldn't seem to overcome or couldn't rise to those battles to meet. But a lot of them just didn't see the success. They didn't put in the work. They wouldn't promote their shows, and then when no one would show up, they would get discouraged, and then a few weeks of that, a few months of that, and they would just say, fuck this shit. This isn't even worth it. This is bullshit. They would shake their fist at everybody else but themselves. They would shake their fist at the band that just got signed, as if they didn't deserve it. And some of these bands that I had that I promoted that got signed and got on national tours with larger bands, festival tours, that kind of thing. These bands had been local bands promoting their fucking music 6 nights a week at local dive bars with nobody there. You know, I mean, doing street teams of flyers and doing everything they can to promote their band with only 2 or 3 people to show up, and they did that for 15 years and finally got their deal. And then some motherfucker has the nerve, because he's lazy, to turn around and say they didn't deserve it. I mean, people very often, when they undertake a project, especially in business, they seem too short-sighted. So I promote staying with it, figuring out where to get the money, figuring out how to have a day job and do it at night if you have to. Now, I should make a whole nother video on that, because I truly believe that if you really want something in this world, especially say, for example, if you want your own business, you have to go for it. So if you're a part-time hustler, you'll never get anywhere. Full-time hustlers get places. People who take the risks and chances in this world get the results. Major players at the table win big, but only if they bet big. They got to take the risks and chances. So you got to stop being such a pussy. I think that it's important to understand that line, that careful line of when you should keep pushing forward and when you should back off. And a lot of that has to do with your own endurance. When you've run out of ideas, you're just spent. You don't know anymore. That's a level of discouragement that maybe you need to recharge. Maybe it's temporary. Maybe there's a flood of inspiration waiting to drop on you that's inside you that you just need to tap open. You just need a pinprick. It just needs to come open. Go out into the wilderness and meditate. Go for a walk. Take a weekend break and get back to it. See what happens. You can quit. You can tell yourself, I'll quit. Okay, I'll quit. But I won't quit today. I'll see how it goes tomorrow, because that desire to quit may just be your weakness coming out. But sometimes we start businesses that are not worth it. Not every idea is a good idea. I hate to think that. I've had so many businesses, people that know me. I've been self-employed for many years, for 30 years, and I've had a lot of different companies, and not all of them have been successful. Some of them have been horrible failures. You know who talks about this is Richard Branson. And I like him a lot because he has a true success story with his life. Kind of came from nothing and built himself into a billionaire. And he has had numerous, you can go read his autobiography. He had numerous failed ventures, complete and total failures, bad ideas. We hate to use that word, that phrase. Like to think of ourselves as little geniuses, and everything we come up with is great. Sometimes a bad idea needs to be given up upon. You can try it for a few years if it's a limited market with, very limited potential, and you figured give it a shot because you liked it, maybe you want to give up on it and go a different direction. That's going to be something that you're going to have to do some soul searching. But if you have a dream that makes you happy, being in business is about two things. One, personal fulfillment. Really enjoying an activity that you do immensely, a hobby that you turn into a lifestyle. And then as you become so incredibly absorbed by this thing that you're interested in, you let it completely consume you. You become an expert at it. You become the best at it. You become submersed in that world. You start to get rewarded for it. You start to get paid for it. You start to be able to support yourself in it. This is the natural path towards entrepreneurship. If somebody is just a hustler and they're just trying to look at dollar signs, that's a recipe for disaster. Your heart has to be in it. A customer can see a fraud. You have to be all about that shit. The second aspect to being in business is helping others. You have to have a true desire and a need to want to help others. That helping of others fulfills you. You feel good about that. That's your resume, not your mansion, not your cars or your vehicles or your swimming pool. The list of people that you've helped. You can drive around town and be like, I helped that guy, I helped that guy, I helped that guy. That's what a product or a service, being in business, that's what that is about. So those two aspects. And when you're living in that world and you are thinking about, should I give up or should I move forward? Giving up sometimes turns into not even an option. Because this is a part of you. So even if you go your whole life with a business, say you have a small store in the neighborhood, and that small store never really does what you wished it would do, should you give up? If it's something that you love, you feel like you're serving the community, it fulfills you, you look forward to it. It's a part of you. Do it forever. You're not doing it for the money. You're doing it for more righteous reasons. You're doing it for God. You're doing it for your people, for your folk, for your community. So sometimes we just have to see the bigger picture. I'm a bigger picture kind of guy when it comes to these types of questions. Now, we can parse this cut this apple in a million different ways. I just wanted to stay within the context of business, but you can look at this question. Should I keep pushing forward? Or should I back off and turn around? Should I quit? You can look at that question in a bunch of different ways, and if it's a popular topic, we can do some more talking about it. But let me know what you think. My buddy may see this video, and let me know what you think. When is that moment for you when you realize, or you are at that brick wall, I should say, and you think, should I climb this wall? Should I keep climbing this mountain? Should I keep struggling forward? Or should I give up? Should I stay or should I go? Thanks for watching.